5, very much the magic number then for Atletico Madrid. Manita Historica meant that they can give the 5 fingers, the wave to Real Madrid as they left the stadium. An embarrassing performance from Xabi Alonso's side as we welcome in Alex Kirkland. You know, Alex, it's kind of good that it went the way that it did in a sense that Real Madrid can't complain about scheduling. Atletico had 24 hours less to prepare. We're not talking about the referee and conspiracy and everyone's against Real Madrid. Real Madrid were just dreadful. And I imagine that's been mirrored, hasn't it, in the post-mortem in Madrid?
Yeah, it feels like everyone accepted that Atleti were clearly the better team, that Real Madrid played really, really badly. We heard that from Xabi Alonso. We've heard it from the players as well. It's been accepted in the press, the fan base, whatever minor complaints they might have about specific incidents or decisions. Those always come up, of course. Everyone agrees that this was really, really poor from Real Madrid. So, yeah, in that sense, I guess a good result, a great result in terms of the title race as well, and a great result in terms of just bringing up so many questions, because whatever we thought we knew going into this game about Xabi Alonso's Real Madrid kind of heading in the right direction, getting better, steadily improving, unbeaten in the league. And Atletico Madrid, of course, had all those doubts going into this game as well after their sort of uncertain start to the season. All of that's been turned on its head now. And this really feels like a really seismic result here. You know, results like this in the Madrid derby just don't happen. You know, it was 75 years since Atletico had scored 5 goals against Real Madrid in a competitive game. You have to go back maybe a decade to when Atleti won 4-0 at the Calderon, the last sort of big result on this scale in their favour. This is really big. And it's still quite early. I think Real Madrid are still shell-shocked, really, about this. And they've had no time, really, to analyse it, because in the meantime, they've had to fly 4,000 miles east to Kazakhstan for a Champions League game as well.
Craig Ventura, I just want to get Alex...
Well, you don't want your old job back at Real Madrid TV, though, do you? Because you really have turned on Real Madrid. You've turned and you just...
No, I'm just so happy we're not...
Well, as I said, I mean, if it all goes... If it all goes pear-shaped here, you're not going back. Barcelona TV? Any chance?
It's the least of my worries. Alex, looking at it, though, Craig mentioned it as we were discussing it on Saturday. Team selection was a bit of a head-scratcher, wasn't it? As we said, they started off so well this season, yet the changes didn't seem to really make sense.
Yeah, there have been a couple of big question marks about Xabi Alonso's team selection. One of those big ones is Jude Bellingham, of course. Fit again, available again. I think he'd only played sort of 20 minutes in total this season going into this game, and Xabi Alonso picked him from the start, and he didn't play well. The feeling is that he was rushed back into the team. Now, of course, you understand the inclination to do that because it's Jude Bellingham, but it did seem to upset the team, upset the balance of the team. It meant that Mastantuono dropped out, who's been playing really well. But I mean, there are poor performances all over the team. Players that otherwise have been really good so far this season. Dean Howson defended really poorly, especially in the air. Questions about him. Carreras, who's been very good at left back, had a really bad game as well. Yeah, some criticism of Xabi Alonso about the team selection, about the tactics, but also of the players, and plenty of individual performances as well.
Bellingham was the... This isn't a sort of attack on Jude Bellingham. He wasn't ready to play. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what you've achieved. Doesn't matter your stature, your presence. If you've played only 20 minutes, you're not ready to go in to a game of that intensity away from home. Not even at the Bernabeu, away from home. Against a side who are chasing their tail, as Alex said. He had a great result against Vallecano, but they were losing right until the end, until Alvarez bailed them out. So it was a huge week for Atletico Madrid, and they were always going to bring that energy. And when you have that in a derby, and we've all played in derby games, for whatever reason, it gets cranked up. The crowd are cranked up more, the players are cranked up more, everything just goes up. And when you haven't had any game time, that's very difficult. And not only starting him, but he lasted 70 minutes. And we talked about this at the weekend. He took Arda Güler off, who did give a penalty away. That can happen. But scored the goal, assisted, and Mastantuono, and Alex mentioned again, it's not a very good signal to send out early in the season. Basically, I thought it was quite negative in a sense, because you could have played Güler there and Mastantuono on the right, or wherever, and he would have had a better balance. He still would have had a playmaker, and he would have had arguably a better playmaker in Arda Güler. Maybe not as much of a threat getting in the box as Jude Bellingham. So I thought that was strange. And it looked like Carreras and Howson got about...
Carreras just looked...
It looked like they got about with the nerves.
Yeah.
And certainly for Dean Howson, who's a fledgling Spanish international now, but it's a bit different. It's a bit different playing at the Vitality Stadium in a South Coast derby against Southampton or whoever it is, and playing in the Madrid derby against Alexander Sorloth, who, he's not the greatest player, but he's a big beast of a guy. And if you get crosses into the box, and they did, particularly in the first half, whenever they put good crosses into the box, either in swingers or out swingers, whatever it was, if it was in a good area, he was attacking it and he was winning it. So they were all over the parish, pretty much on every position on the field.
When we looked at the signings that Real Madrid made during the summer, we thought they needed people to come in at the back. It's exactly what happened. But you look at someone like Carreras coming in and the performance, obviously, that he put in that 90 minutes. How do you deal with that as in Xabi Alonso's shoes to try and give him that confidence? Because he is going to be absolutely slated in the press and by the fans as well. There isn't much empathy when it comes to Real Madrid players and bad performances from their supporters.
I mean, so such as the stage where when you're playing for Real Madrid, any subpar performance is amplified because of the size of the club. But now it's about the next few games to come and how Xabi Alonso handles that, how Carreras handles that. You put together a decent against lesser opposition. I know there's Champions League in there, but if you put together 5 or 6 games where you start to rebuild your confidence, the team gets some good results, that's how you rebuild your own self-confidence. I think so much of that derby came as a shock to the less experienced team in that squad. And credit to Atletico Madrid for taking advantage of that. Because to Craig's point, I thought at 2-1, and you could probably say that the 2 Real Madrid goals were Atleti errors. I thought they would have folded. I thought Atletico Madrid would have folded given how poor their season has been going so far, given how easy Real Madrid make it look. Yeah, they responded. They're the ones who responded to going behind, as opposed to Real Madrid responding in keeping the ball and taking some of the emotion out of the crowd, in maybe getting the crowd on the home team's back. It was Diego Simeone's men who somehow produced a comeback, a response.
That was a brilliant finish from
that really was. That really was an outstanding finish from
But it was a bit like some of the Clásicos we saw last season. You know, Real Madrid were in it on the score sheet, but actually, when you looked at the actual game, and it was only one team in it.
Yeah, and Atleti, you know, as Alex pointed out, and for people that follow La Liga, have had a very, I'll be nice, very patchy start to the season. I mean, a few draws. You know, I think they were on up until this week. They'd looked as if they were almost out. Put it one way: if they hadn't beat Vallecano and Real at the weekend, Real Madrid at the weekend, we'd probably be sitting here saying they're out the title race.
9 points, wasn't it?
That's how bad a start to the season they've had. The only saving grace it's been early. Now, you talk about these big games. We put a graphic up there of about 4 weeks worth of football leading up to October 26, which is the Clásico. So, as Shaq mentioned, it's about for some of these players rebuilding their confidence in these games. The problem is, you don't know, and Xabi Alonso doesn't know what he's going to get until they step back into that big arena again. It's okay, maybe beating Villarreal have had a good start to the season and some of these other sides in the Champions League, but until you step back into these games in Spain that everybody's looking at, the Madrid derby, the Clásico, he's going to be thinking, right, have they put that behind them?
Yeah.
Can these boys that really struggled, and there was experienced boys that struggled. Fede Valverde at the end with that slack pass for the Griezmann goal. The game was finished at that point, but it kind of summed it up. It ran through the whole team. But the likes of Valverde and Tchouaméni and Mbappe and all these others, they can put it behind them because they've done it before. The problem is some of these less experienced guys, when they step out in that Clásico in October 26, if selected, they're thinking, and I'm telling you, we've all done it. We've all done it. You've had a bad game and a huge game, and you step on that big arena the next time, and you think, right, I can't do that again. So it's in your head, and it's very difficult to get out your head until you put a performance in. And I think that's the problem for Alonso going forward.
And I think the familiarity of the performance that we saw, Alex, against big teams. You saw it obviously against Milan last season. They laboured in the Champions League, and we all know the record. We can see right here, of course, in El Clasico as well. Embarrassing, historical. It was, of course, the way in which Barcelona tore them apart last season. And as much as Xabi Alonso has been getting credit, the way he's been handling Vinicius Jr., there's more running, there's more tracking back. This is the main test, obviously, these big games. And you could say so far, lucky against Marseille and obviously thrashed at the weekend.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a new era. This is supposed to be about fixing all the things that were wrong with Ancelotti's Real Madrid. But let's look at it. They've had two really big games under Xabi Alonso so far. One's in the Club World Cup semi-finals against PSG, and one is this derby. And in both those two games, they've been absolutely hammered. Now, Alonso was really quick to sort of try and paint the Club World Cup as being kind of separate, something else. The season starts, his reign really starts now. And then once again, in the first really big game this season, they've come undone really badly. Now, that's not to write off Alonso's Real Madrid, anything like it. He was saying again today, listening to his presser today ahead of the Champions League game, look, this is the process. It's a project. We're just getting started. We've been here for a few months. We need to learn from this. But very actually, you mentioned Fede Valverde, listening to him talk as well today. And he was saying, look, there have been lots of conversations since Saturday's game, behind the scenes, among the players, trying to work out what went wrong. Was it about attitude? Was it about how we went out there onto the pitch? Things that shouldn't really be a question in a derby, a Madrid derby. Attitude shouldn't be an issue. Intensity shouldn't be an issue. But listening to Valverde today, those are the kind of conversations that some of the players have been having in the last 24, 40 hours on that long flight to Kazakhstan. So let's see how they react. And yeah, the big one, the one that's sort of ringed in red in the diary, is the Clasico. Because as you say, the Clasico record last season was abysmal, was historically bad for Real Madrid, losing every one of those Clásicos. That cannot happen again. There needs to be some sort of sign in that game that things have changed.
Barcelona then 1 point clear of Real Madrid. Just a word on this, and the thing is, we kind of thought, well, maybe now that Hansi Flick had a summer to work with his team, could work on this defence. But I feel like we're seeing those same sort of frailties, Alex, that we saw last season, and there is a real soft belly as these games go on, that Barcelona fans are sweating, and rightly so, and you feel it could come and bite them in the butt again when it comes to those big games, say, in the Champions League.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, maybe it's a characteristic of this Hansi Flick team. It's a high-risk approach, and there are times that it's going to come back and bite you, but mostly it doesn't. Last season was a terrific success. They won the league. They went all the way to the Champions League semi-finals. Of course, in the Champions League semi-finals, in the end, they came unstuck, but they had a very, very good season, and maybe it's a price you have to pay. Playing this kind of football, it's going to work for you most of the time until it doesn't. Now, of course, PSG in the Champions League in midweek is a big one. I tell you, a really, really attractive fixture for the neutral, because these are two teams that really play on the front foot. PSG, another risk-taking team. So let's see how it goes. But like I say, maybe it's the price you pay. And if that's the case, well, last year it worked out pretty well.
I think. Well, just briefly on the back four, in particular, I think they look to me as if they're giving up more chances than they did last year, and that's saying something with the success that they had, particularly domestically. But I do think, whilst he's not the greatest defender that's ever played the game, I think Martinez going to Saudi Arabia has been a big miss for them. Yeah. Because what he was somebody who organised the back four. So you may have agree or disagree on the high line, but it operated pretty well as a unit. You could, we sat here and said, well, it was too high, it was too risky, but you watched them when they did it and they came out as a four. And they squeezed it as a unit, which you have to do. You can't go in ones and twos. It's just never going to work. And one of the reasons that Araujo didn't play as much last year was, one, injury, but two, that he doesn't understand how to operate the back four as well as Martinez did as an experienced player. Well, he doesn't have that now. And this back four is chopped and changed. It was Christensen and Araujo, Cubarasi's been in there, Eric Garcia's been in there, Eric Garcia's been at right back, Gerard Martin's playing left back at the moment. We know he's a little bit of a weak link. So the fact that they're getting the results in the top of the league with this back four at the moment, I think it's a decent job. There are, for all these teams, and I include Atleti in this, there are still, Atleti, Barca and Real Madrid, there are still a lot of questions. Yeah. There's still a lot of facets of these three teams where you think, I can get at that, I could beat them there, they're weak there. So I think it's going to make for a really exciting La Liga title race, but don't underestimate how big a blow it was losing Martinez to Saudi Arabia for that back four.
As Alex mentioned, though, Wednesday, PSG against Barcelona. I don't care if this is only the second game of the group stage. You know, both teams are going to go out. They're going to try and win it. It's going to be brilliant.
Two of the best footballing teams in Europe. You saw that all of last season.
I think.
Yeah, without question. And both, as Alex mentioned, attack-minded. And while, yes, they do defend, at times the focus is really more on outscoring the opponent. This really is a difficult one to call. We saw PSG start of last season slowly, certainly in Europe, and then get a whole lot better as the year changed. You just want to see in this difficult test this early on how Luis Enrique's men cope with this part of the season. That for me is interesting. And again, it's a good test for Barcelona.
And PSG have got a lot of people missing, of course, potentially unavailable for the tie.
But they lost at Marseille recently because of, Frank reckoned it was because of the injuries. But obviously they have a lot of these big players out. But I think both teams, even though it's very early in the competition for two teams like this to be meeting, this is because of this new format. I think both are going to go for it because,
absolutely,
you know, if one wins and one loses, they're both probably still going to make it through. Because of the sort of parachute of this sort of gigantic group stage. But you want to set a marker down for the rest of your season, as in, you know, picking up the momentum, getting a result against another side that are considered favourites to win the competition. So I don't think there's going to be any thoughts in the minds of Hansi Flick or indeed Luis Enrique saying, well, it doesn't matter what happens in this game because we're going to qualify anyway. It's a good gauge of where you are early in the season.
Just a reminder as we say goodbye to Alex, thank you very much. Are you going to any of these Champions League games? You're not on the plane to Kazakhstan, obviously.
I can make it out to Kazakhstan, so I'll be watching from home on TV.
Yeah, because if he lost his bag over there, it'd be a bit difficult getting clobber.
Yes, of course.
Well, not that they don't sell clothes in Kazakhstan, like I'm sure they do.
You all right?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much, Alex.
I think Arsenal assumed control of most of the game, even though they didn't look like they were going to go on and win it. Some of the play was pretty good. Newcastle were difficult to break down. Obviously, they were very physical. I'm glad, you know, and I'm glad Eze played. I mean, he wasn't brilliant, but he was unlucky not to get on the score sheet because Pope made 2 or 3 world-class saves. The only thing is I got frustrated with Arsenal watching this game, and obviously Arteta's been in news this week with some of his sort of crazy comments about the Man City game from last weekend. Did he play Eze because he wanted to play Eze, or did he play him because he's buckled to a bit of the pressure? Who knows? But unfortunately, and this might be a good thing for them, and we were talking about this, they're almost kind of the team's moulding into this annoying Mikel Arteta sort of mirror image, isn't it?
Almost.
They have a brilliant squad of players. They're definitely going to be in this title race. It's going to go all the way down. There's no reason they can't win it. They have a lot of likeable players who are super talented, but they're a very unlikable team. One of the most unlikable teams in the Premier League because they moan and they groan about everything and they think everything's against them. From the manager to the players, Trossard, Gabriel, you go through the list. They spend half the time moaning and groaning. And I think if they can somewhat, you know, maybe some will say that's a sign of a good side. You know, maybe that mentality will get them to the end. But I think sometimes that can take you off your game. And I think at various parts of this game, they were off of the job of trying to win the game and more on the job of the referee and the world's against us. And I didn't like that, to be honest with you. I liked the way they finished, but I didn't like the fact that they thought every single challenge should have been a free kick or a penalty or something for Arsenal. Even the goal that they were moaning about Gabriel being pushed, he was not. Was
that evident being there, Mark?
It was, yeah. And what was evident to me was that they kind of met the match in Newcastle because Newcastle can do that as well. Newcastle, you know, it was like watching Stoke versus Wimbledon at times because Newcastle were really kind of getting stuck in. They were moaning. Dan Burn got booked for a classic kind of tactical foul, and they're pretty good at it as well. Newcastle. We had Jason Tindall on the touchline having a go at Gabriel Heinze in the dugout as well. It really was kind of two sides that know how to, you know, stretch the rules as far as possible. But you know, Craig's right. Arsenal do like a moan, but that's been their DNA since Arsene Wenger took charge. That Arsene Wenger team was a great team that had lots of moaners in it, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think over the years, Arsenal, you know, certainly in the latter years of Wenger and under Unai Emery, were a bit soft and they were a bit kind of timid. They're not timid now.
If you think back to and I think they've tidied this up. I haven't got the stats, obviously, but they had some discipline problems a couple of years ago, and particularly the centre backs. Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing.
He's one that I think you just, and I agree with Augie, I don't think it's a red card, but it's not far off it. You can't raise your hand to another player, particularly off the ball, particularly to the head. That's just utter stupidity. You're just asking, particularly with VAR, you're just asking for somebody to go and have a look at something that most people won't even be batting an eyelid at. You should not be getting involved in scenarios like that.
My thing certainly with that incident is I'm in agreement. I didn't think it was a card, certainly not a red card. When I saw it, I didn't think so. But had that been the other way around, had that been Voltemada on Gabriel, that's all you would have heard from Arteta for the last 24 hours. Without question, that would have dominated every post-game press conference about how unfairly we are treated, because apparently they've been treated unfairly again. Siege mentality only gets you so far. If you're a big football club, it gets really tiring really quickly. And Arsenal have had this and kind of amplified the siege mentality about them and their ambitions for the last 3 or 4 years. And at some point, I think it starts to tell on your identity. When you take the field and you feel everybody and their mother is against you.
How did this get so negative against Arsenal? They just went to Newcastle, they won.
Your Arsenal mates will be on to you again.
Oh, they've already been.
They went to Newcastle, they won, they're very much in the title race. Can you imagine the conversation if they hadn't got that late win?
That being said,
and they deserve to win.
I felt, at no point I thought Arsenal would not score. Looking at this game, even with Newcastle in front, I thought, I was sitting there and thinking it's only a matter of time. And I couldn't believe it got to the 80th minute for us to score. I just thought Arsenal were that dominant. And as defensive as Newcastle tried to be, as much as they tried to stifle them, I never thought for a minute that Arsenal would go 90, or in this case, 98 minutes without at least getting one.
I was not expecting Arsenal to be favourites now.
Why?
Because Liverpool are favourites, surely, still.
No.
No?
No. Look, at the moment, the way they're playing,
But they've just...
all they've done is eke out results.
Right, really?
Until the weekend. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you could argue even the game, the Champions League game, Atletico Madrid were probably unlucky at Anfield. So all they've been doing is eking out results. I mean, Arsenal haven't had as good of results, but they've controlled a lot of the games. Liverpool have not. It's been a bit hear 'em, scare 'em. Hasn't been anywhere near the organised Liverpool like last year, where they were very solid defensively for the most part, good shape in midfield, and fast and dynamic on the counter-attack. Not really had much of that, if we're being honest. The whole defending, whether you're a goalkeeper or a defender, centre-half or a full-back, defending is as big an art skill as scoring a goal or having an assist. And part of that skill set is timing a challenge and, lo and behold, getting something on the ball, which is what every defender and goalkeeper sets out to do, whether it's with their hands, getting a fingertip to it. I mean, if he comes out and gets a fingertip to that, right, and then Gyökeres balls over the top of them, how can that be a foul?
Nobody argues that. Nobody argues
the whole point is this: the laws say, well, you're not just playing the ball. I think that's more when you're playing when you play the ball, but you come in a dangerous, reckless manner. Then it's not just about playing the ball, but in terms of winning it there. And the direction of the ball changing, I don't see how that can...
Here's my take on this. Just getting a touch on the ball does not necessarily mean that it's not a penalty. But if you divert the ball away enough that the striker, in this case Gyökeres, isn't running onto that loose ball and got an easy tap in, then if you're denying him that, then yes, even though you get a touch, as it's a penalty. But as you look at that, certainly from the aerial shot, I think there's genuine debate there as to whether Gyökeres is getting onto it or not. And truthfully, as biased I may be, I don't think Gyökeres is getting onto that ball, which means Pope got more than enough of a touch to say that it was a good challenge, it wasn't dangerous, to Craig's point. He got the ball first before getting the man, and enough of a diversion to say, yeah, this is not a penalty.
To your point earlier, if that had been, I mean this in all sincerity, had that been the other way around, right? And it had denied, and Newcastle had got a penalty for it or whatever. Mikel Arteta he would already have had some sort of fast-baked press conference with a big screen behind him where they would have magnified David Raya's touch.
This anti-Arsenal rhetoric it's disgusting for a team that are favourites, Mark, to win the Premier League.
I agree with that, but I had them as favourites at the start of the season, and I think, I agree with the guys. Liverpool aren't that convincing. Yes, everyone looks at the results. They've won a lot of games late in the game, but I don't think Slot's particularly happy with his new signings. I think his two fullbacks he's not convinced by. He's substituted Kirkez. He's had a couple of nibbles at Kirkez and Frimpong. He's not happy with Wirtz. Every time Wirtz starts, he's taking him off. So, yes, they've spent all this money, but they're not as good a team as they were last season. And I think it's the players they've lost. They're missing Trent for his distribution down the right. I think they've got an issue at centre half. So for me, Arsenal have got the strongest squad. They've got depth in every position, maybe apart from having cover for Odegaard. And I think the only thing that Liverpool, for me, have got the advantage of is the manager. I think Arne Slot is a better coach, better manager, has been down the track before as a winner. But Arteta, he keeps knocking on the door, and I think he's very, very close to having a team that can win the title now.
There was a member of our squad who will remain nameless, our team, our crew.
Oh, of ESPN FC. I think we're going back to 1974.
Who thinks that. Well, you're always looking at that.
I've waited it.
There's a member of a crew here who thinks Arne Slot got a bit lucky last year.
Okay.
With the Premier League and the other, obviously went out the Champions League, went out the FA Cup, all that sort of stuff.
Why does Stevie think that?
It's not Stevie, obviously.
Oh really?
It's not Stevie. and so that's going to be when I heard that, I'm not going to say who it was, throwing them under the bus.
It's not exactly a massive crew.
It might not be somebody based here in the US.
Oggy had a nervous laugh there.
Obviously not on the title odds.
That is to get Liverpool fans to hate Oggy as well. It wasn't Oggy.
Everyone hates Oggy, no matter who they support. Manchester United, of course, nowhere near the title race. Another defeat for them leaves them in 14th in the table. 6 games. I know. 6 games. Here we go.
Oh, boy.
Right, let's take a look at Amorim's record. Of course, worse than it was last Monday. 9 wins. There you go.
See, when you're having this discussion with Oggy, I'm just going to sit like Ruben Amorim.
Oh, yeah.
Sit like this.
There we go.
Tell me when it's over. Tell me.
So it's time for Miserable Mark's Monday Manchester Update. Mark, what's the latest?
Listen, I can only work with the cards that I'm dealt with, so obviously I'm miserable every Monday because I've not really got anything to play with. Look, the situation with Amorim is that he'll still be in charge at the weekend against Sunderland. United don't want to make a change, but I think there's a realisation that things have to improve rapidly. This is his 50th game at the weekend against Sunderland. I think if they don't win it, I'd be surprised if he gets 51 because they can basically say he needs time, he's had a lot of issues that have been against him, etc, etc. But look, that win rate, 27% win rate. Prior to Amorim coming in, the worst record of a Man United manager in the Premier League was David Moyes, 50%. So that is how bad Amorim's record has been. And there's so many stats, that no back-to-back wins since he came in, average point per game. An average of 1 point per game is relegation form. The old rule that you had to have 40 points to be sure of staying up, that tracks onto 38 points. So that means Man United are in a relegation battle. So, one thing that was put to me last week by somebody at United was that, yes, things aren't going great, but who do you bring in to replace you? I was being asked that question. It wasn't me asking the question. They were asking me, which was a bit worrying, I guess. But, the answer to that is...
Very worrying.
Good question. Well, exactly. So... what is the answer? Well, we know that Gareth Southgate's available. I don't think he's a solution because, first of all, the two big advocates for Gareth Southgate at Man United were Dan Ashworth and Dave Brailsford, both of whom have left. And obviously Southgate would not be a vote winner with the fans, I wouldn't have thought. People are mentioning Xavi, record at Barcelona, but Man United right now I think need an experienced Premier League manager who knows the league, who knows the players, just to get them out of the situation. I don't think that's Xavi. I just don't think he could go in and work with that squad. And the other obvious candidate is Oliver Glasner. Now, Glasner's situation is his contract expires at Palace at the end of the season. He'd be relatively inexpensive to get out of the club. He's older and wiser than Amorim. He's got a track record of winning trophies. He's made Palace, the informed team in the Premier League. But I think the situation United are in right now is that they've made so many mistakes over the years, not just Ineos, but the Glazers, the whole club, that I think they would be over-analysing every potential candidate and trying to find reasons not to appoint them rather than find reasons to appoint them. They're so scared of making another mistake. But I think if Amorim, was to lose or draw against Sunderland at the weekend, they would have to make a change because, games are running out. I know it's early, but games are running out. United right now, it's early enough in the season for somebody to turn it around. If it dragged on another month, that's another season gone, another season no Europe, another season potentially in relegation battle. So it is getting to the point now where it's, stick or twist, I think, with Amorim.
And you think the Sunderland game, and not that there's anybody in the Premier League that they would be safe against, there's not. But you would imagine one of the promoted teams who you would, at the start of the year, you might have considered some cannon fodder would have been slightly easier to take a bit of pressure off, but not the way they've started. Sunderland spent a lot of money in the summer, have started really, really well, are full of confidence, and they'll be licking their chops at taking this Man United scalp. So, he needs to find... Well, it's not like we're going to sit to the weekend and go, well, I wonder what he's going to do.
No, exactly.
Because we know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what he's going to do. Exactly what they're going to do. As I've said many times, you don't even have... It must be the easiest week on the planet for every team that's playing Man United, the scouting department, and the people that do, the tactics, the manager and the coaches, because they don't have to really think about the changes he makes, because he just doesn't make any. And toppy playing players in terrible positions, and toppy defenders that just want to squeeze out for offside and can't defend a long ball over the top as they had at the weekend. As we sit here now, if you gave me $100 to put on a winner of that game, I'd put it on Sunderland.
If you're Glasner, do you go?
Yes, because there's a shelf life at Crystal Palace with the likes of Steve Parish and others who only want to spend a certain amount of money every year to basically make sure they're not in a relegation battle. And if they can find a manager like Glasner that takes them with that budget to this promised land, then they're great with that. They're not all of a sudden going to go out and start giving Oliver Glasner a bundle of money. When Mark Gay's contract's up, he's going to leave. They've already lost Elise, they've already lost Eze, they'll lose the young lad in midfield whose name escapes me, the left footer. Adam Watson, who's a terrific young player, England international, they'll lose him next. And then you have to go out and replenish. Now, Brighton have done that very well, selling and then recruiting. But it's really, really, really difficult. And Brighton have a young manager who's up and coming. Oliver Glasner is not. He's been there, seen it and done it in Austria, in Germany, in England. And Crystal Palace are a great club, but the allure of managing Man United, even in their current state, every manager thinks they can turn the ship around. Everyone.
Right.
No matter how bad it is, a manager always thinks they can make a difference. And if push comes to shove, I think that's where, unless they go offshore somewhere else, I think if they're looking in England, they shouldn't really be looking much further.
Just a reminder, a lot more reaction to what we saw across the board this weekend over on our YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, be sure to go to ESPN FC and subscribe. So, second round of matches in the Champions League. Last week, of course, they were Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now they're just Tuesday and Wednesday. You take a look at this. It is really not a good week.
Oh, Chelsea Benfica's exciting.
Well, yes, that's what I'm going to get to.
All right.
But look at that. That is awful.
Why didn't you tell me that?
I'm very
well, I'm looking forward to Bodo Glimt v Spurs.
Well, yeah.
Isn't that a repeat of last year?
I don't know. As Craig mentioned, it is Benfica against Chelsea, the return of Jose Mourinho to Stamford Bridge.
There was a set period where even myself from the outside, I was putting some question marks because it looked like Chelsea lost her identity as a club. But what happened in the last season put things back on track. I think they gave trust to Enzo. He brought his ideas. He fitted well with the philosophy they want to give to the club. The Conference League is an easy competition for a big club to win it. I did it with Roma. It's quite an easy competition to win for a big club. And then the Club World Cup, people can say, I also say, the Champions League is much more important. But that badge means a lot.
Oh, Mourinho really bring the energy there ahead of this game.
Do you know what it was? Does anybody? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 was here. Anybody know what he was waffling
Well,
on
he
about?
was saying about how Chelsea have changed. They stuck with Enzo. Look, they won the Conference League, but that was quite easy. He'd already won that
Things
with
are
Roma.
changing at Chelsea. They have an identity again. They won the Conference League, which I also won because that's easy. Really good week because they've just won 2. Oh, they've lost 2 games in a row. Man United and Brighton.
Oh, Oggy, how much is Mourinho going to love all the attention tomorrow?
Oh, it's all about him, isn't it? And,
Yeah.
You know, this is probably his last visit to Chelsea, isn't it? I don't think he'll be back again. I think there's a suggestion in Portugal that the Benfica job is only a stopgap until he takes the Portugal job after the World Cup, and then, you know, fireworks on the international stage. So this could be his so-called last dance at Stamford Bridge, and I think he'll love every minute of it. He'll love being, welcomed back by the fans. They'll sing his name. He'll dance around on the touchline. He'll make sure he's the centre of attention. He might even get a result as well because Chelsea aren't doing too well at the moment. A lot of injuries, so it wouldn't surprise me if Benfica get a draw, even a win at Stamford Bridge, and Jose laps it all up in good old Jose fashion.
Jose's going to love it, Shaq. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, he... And
it's like Craig going to a golf course.
well, you don't know what golfing Craig is like. That's it.
I've also had my last visit to Stamford Bridge.
I'm not sure it's quite the same reception.
But unfortunately, I didn't get the cheers and the adulation.
Jose will love it, and rightly so. I mean, his record at that club really. I mean, he put Chelsea on the map. Fans appreciate that.
Chelsea on the map.
Well, you know what I mean. Well,
I did
first
that.
title in 50 years.
Frank's on the phone. I wanted to get fit cup for Shaka.
First title in 50 years and all that. Rightly so. I well thought of, well remembered, and would be deserving of.
If that's the best game.
That's
in
the one that
trouble.
you highlighted.
Well, I'm saying all I'm going to say is if that's the best game,
Yeah.
we're in banging trouble tomorrow.
Me and Shaq are off tomorrow.
Are you?
Yeah, you're back in trouble.
Hold on.
There we
Phone call
go.
coming in. To the boss.
There you are. Real Madrid's early as well. You're going to have to get in early for that, Craig. Enjoy.
I don't get.
Oggy, where are you going? Are you going to go to Stamford Bridge for this? What are you going to do this couple of days?
I'm going to Wrexham v Birmingham on Friday. That's my big game this week.
Good old corporate Oggy. There he is. Good boy.
There you go.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time.
Thinking about tomorrow now.
Yeah, we were looking at Craig's working tomorrow, and the Champions League games aren't particularly appealing. Chelsea, Benfica, and Galatasaray, Liverpool, I think, are the two that are the highlights.
Well, I mean, we'll have the games on, and then
Right.
his nibs will be behind me.
Oh yeah, he's going to be getting.
And I'll know he's behind me because he'll be eating his soup.
Yeah.
And his bag of chips. You know they'll be there.
That's all you hear.
Napkin down in front.
Right. You know he's there.
Shaka, do you see Chelsea or United sacking their managers soon rather than later to try to poach Glasner from Palace? Relatedly, if you were Nuno, would you have passed on the West Ham job in anticipation that Chelsea and United job will be available? I don't think I don't think.
I don't think Maresca's any kind of trouble, and I don't think Manchester United go for Nuno. So, to that point, he's right to take the West Ham job. Was available, get him back in the game. I'm a little bit torn on Amorim in that every time a United manager needs a result, they somehow get it, and they just end up kicking the can down the road. No, once again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I think he should stay. Well,
You think they're looking for an excuse?
I'm kind of from a Newcastle and West Ham perspective, I'm kind of happy that he's.
They're basically looking for an excuse not to sack him.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And I think you saw this for a long time under Ten Hag as well. Every time all the rhetoric was, if they lose this weekend, he's gone. They somehow get a result. We had this 2 weeks ago, and they beat Chelsea. Right. And now we're having it again. So it wouldn't surprise me that Manchester United get the results against Sunderland, and then all of a sudden, all's right in the red half of Manchester until next week.
He didn't get that far in Leverkusen, did he? Ten Hag.
No.
He just come down the steps of the plane and they sacked him.
Yeah.
He sent him back up. I mean,
That's enough.
It was incredible.
Was it 3 games? Was it 3 games?
Made a mistake.
Oh boy.
Ever since they got beat off that under-20 team in the summer, they got hammered.
Brazilian
It was like
team, yeah.
That was it.
alarm bells were ringing.
Now, I'm not sure if you saw this, of course, a viral moment. A college soccer player kicked a 33-yard field goal to win $350,000 with Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Could you kick that far?
Not now.
An American football?
Yes.
33 yards, yes.
You could have done it?
Yes.
Under that pressure?
Yeah.
What pressure?
Pressure? What pressure?
What do you mean, what pressure?
Oh, with all
your
the
schoolmates around.
with the defensive line coming out.
No, there was no defensive line, but
was not.
obviously you got the pressure of knowing what was on the line, and it was his mate who won the chance, and he went, look, I can't kick. I'm going to give it
So
to
they're kicking the ball from dead.
Yes.
It's not snapped.
No.
Right.
33 yards.
Yes.
That's a
So
little chip.
he brought in a ringer, basically, and got his soccer mate.
Brought in a soccer player to kick a little
Yeah.
33-yarder. That's a chip.
But the old, not now because the quad muscles have gone.
Okay.
Back in the day,
Right. What's happened to the quad muscles?
well, they just gone.
Where did they go?
I don't know.
Just had enough, to be fair. They're just like, I had enough. Whatever this is, I had enough of it.
Well, there's moaning.
Just can't. Not now. Like,
Right.
No.
That was all right.
Right, I could have did it in a day.
Craig, are you glad stale positional possession football is slowly phasing out?
Yeah.
What do you think precipitates these wholesale changes?
Well, actually, we're seeing it even from kickoffs now, aren't we? We're seeing some of the teams launching it forward for a throw-in or trying to pin a team back in the corner and squeezing the game. A lot more. I think there's been a lot more long balls this year, certainly in the Premier League. Throw-ins, long throws. We're seeing. It's kind of. I think there's a better. It seems to me as if some teams are going back to a more balanced approach. So the sort of tiki-taka is fine. It's still there. But it's not all about that.
Like Palace are a good example of that. Like Palace have done really well without having to play.
Well, and you saw Brentford at the weekend going over the top at Man United. We've seen City with less possession this year, playing some longer balls. I mean, I don't think it's. I think we've got away so far from 70 to 80% possession and going nowhere. I mean, it's going to come up now and again, but I for one enjoy seeing the physicality of some long balls going forward and centre-halves and defenders having to have a bit of a scrap. And then as a midfielder, you're getting up there to pick up the second ball in the scraps and then you go from there. Kind of old school, but yeah, we're seeing a bit more of that.
Going back to the long ball from the kickoff, Letizia admitted that he kicked the ball out on purpose, didn't he? Because his mates were betting that the first people to get a throw-in would be Southampton's opposition.
Right, did he admit that?
Yes, yeah, he admitted that. Is that something that you were ever...
Did Matt get in a bit of a...
No, I don't think so. I think it was like so long ago, it just kind of got...
Well, there was... I'm not going to mention any names. There was accusations.
Right.
Some teams were doing that, and you may have played for one of these teams.
Shaka.
Not at that time. I don't know. Had any team I ever played in, even... I have never, ever, ever heard that discussion in a dressing room I've been in.
Right.
Never.
Okay.
Ever, ever, ever. So, but I do know there is a school of thought that some teams were, with some heavy gamblers in it, were doing stuff like that.
Wow.
First free kick.
Yeah.
First throw in.
First throw-in.
Time of the first throw-in.
Really, Shaq? You've heard of this as well before?
I've heard of it.
Right. No, nothing's been fair. I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, I've definitely heard of it.
Right.
But I tell you what,
Nothing written in no dressing room I've been in. I'll also add that.
Okay.
But I've certainly heard of it.
but maybe 20, 30 years ago, people thought they might have got away with it. But everything's so digital now with this stuff that
With the betting, yeah.
yeah,
of
you're
course.
you're just getting found out. And,
You saw that with Trippier, obviously. He got banned when he went to Atleti.
and you're getting in big trouble. So,
As a player, what's worse to deal with, Shaka? Practicing at a bad facility or playing at a bad stadium?
Playing at a bad stadium. You get used to The practice had bad facilities. The practice facilities are always lesser than your match facilities. So you kind of get used to that. You want to play at good facilities. So to the question, it's worse to practice. It's worse to play at a bad facility than to practice at all.
But the facilities obviously have changed a lot.
Yeah.
Like when you're at Reading.
Oh yeah, everything. I mean, practice
Pompey, were you in like a school pitch?
Pompey, where did we train at Pompey? No, we trained...
Did you go to training at Pompey?
Yeah, we trained at a university ground. I can't remember what was it. It was actually in officially Southampton.
Right.
It was a university ground somewhere, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all.
Okay.
Chelsea rented the training ground from a university.
Okay.
At Hayes and Harlington near Heathrow Airport.
And like changing rooms were a mess, weren't they? I remember Mario and Frank bringing it up.
By the time Mario got there, they were better than they were.
Right.
When I got there in '87 as a 16-year-old, and it was desolate back then. They improved the dressing rooms, they refurbed them, the showers and everything, but not to some magnificent standard. You asked Frank about it, and the training ground was like so open out by Heathrow there. It was freezing cold and windy. It wasn't the gym. There was barely any gymnasium equipment. I mean, you think about it.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Celtic, they had this training ground that we had to go to Celtic Park every day and then get in the cars to go to this little pitch at Barrowfield.
Why can't you just go there yourself?
There was no facilities to get.
Oh, I see. You can get changed.
There was basically a few pitches. There was a little sort of porter cabin dressing room area where I think the kids used to get changed and stuff. But we're talking about Celtic Football Club. They've got their own, state-of-the-art one now at Lennoxtown and a different side of Glasgow. But they didn't then. But in some ways that made it really quite fun. It was just, the only thing was, the police were always waiting for us to get into the training ground.
Why?
With the speed gun. And they used to catch a few of us, particularly the Rangers supporting police officers.
Oh, I see.
On the way to training. We'd start training and go, well, why is there only like 14 and not 16 and two of the lads come in with their speeding ticket?
Oh, no.
So yeah, hardly ideal.
Have you ever been in a half-time talk and the manager has no clue what tactic to make the game better in the second half?
Yeah. Jim Smith, God rest his soul, who Shaq also worked with. What a great character. We were playing Leeds United and we got a centre-half sent off, I believe, just before half-time. And Jim came in and he was just... He was just wandering around the dressing room, basically just talking to himself. and then he came out with a great line. He turned around to Neil Sillett, one of the coaches, and he tried to say it was damage limitation.
Right.
And he went, well, that's it, Sil. It's lamage limitation now. I was like, he's gone. He just gone.
Shaq?
Nah, I can't.
No one... Just had enough.
Yeah.
But Jim was funny. See, most managers would come in and go, right, we'll do that and that. Jim just wanted to come in and he wanted to kill somebody. He wanted to fight.
That's why he got on so well. Shaq, if you were Lamens at United, would you be knocking on Amorim's door to start eager to show your quality? Why is he not doing that?
I worry for him coming into this team. I'll be, as I've said from the get-go. And young player, inexperienced as he is, he doesn't have the gravitas to go knocking on Manchester United's manager's door. He just doesn't.
And as if Amorim's answering the door to anyone.
Exactly. He's not. That's something an older, more senior player. If Emi Martinez was the goalkeeper, he would be asking those questions.
He'll be using his trophy, knock on the door with his golden hand.
That's right.
Every night's like Halloween for Amorim, isn't it?
You turn off the lights.
This is what I do. I turn off all the lights and hide behind the sofa in case a kid comes to the door. But he just does that every night.
Yeah.
So I heard a story about how he
I'm
was.
not a Grinch or anything like that.
I think it was Marco.
Not a Grinch or anything like
Well, I don't want the dogs eating kids.
Right.
I heard this story. I think it was Marco Bugas goes to Harry in his office, says, Harry, I want to know why I'm not playing. Harry says, come let me show you something. So step outside. He's like, what's up? Reads the side, top of the door. He says, manager. Slam! End of discussion. Door just slammed. That was it.
But did you ever do it?
No.
No. Did you do it?
What?
Knock on the manager's door.
Oh, God, yeah.
Did you? And say why I'm
Not
playing?
at the end. Not at the end. Not when I was like In the early days at Chelsea, yes.
Did
When I was a youngster. Yeah, when I was a younger player, yeah. I talked to Glenn a couple of times.
What was the conversation?
Well, Glenn, no, Glenn,
This is Glenn Hoddle.
Yeah. No, I can't remember. Why am I not playing? He said I can't. His excuse at that point was I couldn't play 3 games in a week.
Right. Okay.
So,
You can play 2.
Why?
Because his quads were already had enough. His quads were already halfway out the door. It doesn't matter.
after that, no, I never had a conversation with John Gregory, obviously, about why I wasn't playing because I knew that was a personal issue. But no, I did have a conversation with Craig Brown at the World Cup. I went and knocked on his bedroom door, because we were in the hotel, and asked him why I wasn't playing in a certain position.
Okay.
I was playing every game for Scotland, but I wasn't playing in the position I wanted to. I went and knocked on his door. Before the second game, after the Brazil game, I went and knocked on his door and I basically had an argument with him.
Did you? I didn't know this.
Yeah.
What position were you playing?
I was playing right wing back.
Okay.
And I just come off, obviously I was a central midfielder, I just come off my best season at
Scottish Player of the Year he was, Shaq.
Oh, yes. Oh, lovely.
Scottish Footballer of the Year. I scored 15 goals, won the league, blah, blah, blah. And so I went to him and I said to him, what, are you stupid, basically? And he said, and I'll be honest, he said to me, you're playing out there, or you're not playing at all.
Oh. So it didn't quite go.
Guess what happened?
You got sent off?
In the Norway, well, that's later.
Oh.
Guess what happened in the Norway game?
You scored.
No. He played me wing back because he basically said, zip it, I'm the manager.
Yeah.
And then Norway scored, and he had to call the back phone to move me.
Oh. And then you scored.
And then I scored.
Yeah.
And I should have turned around, stuck 2 fingers up at him, but I'm too classy for that. So that was frustration.
Right.
And then he did play me central
What was
midfield.
your celebration when you scored? Did you have fun?
When you got no teeth, you don't need a celebration. And he did. And then it all came unstuck because he started me against Morocco in central midfield.
Right. And we know what happened then.
I got sent off.
Early bath.
Early bath.
Final question, Shaq. What's the best combination for Arsenal if everyone's fit? Can Eze and Odegaard play together?
I'd play Eze out on the left.
Okay.
Odegaard to the middle.
Yeah, Gyökeres in the centre.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Bish bash posh. Thank you very much. Well, enjoy tomorrow, Craig.
Listen, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm having an early night.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure you're in early. Real Madrid, obviously, Kazakhstan. That's the early game.
Unfortunately, I've got to go to.
Got to find your quads.
Deal with some car insurance issues.
Oh, lovely. There you are.
At midday, so I might miss that game.
That's it. ESPN FC back on your screens tomorrow. Stevie's in as well. Robbo joins them to reflect on the second round of matches of the Champions League.